In the last session, we looked at God's purpose in reconciling us. But in this session, we're going to look at the prerequisite or the condition of how we remain reconciled to the Father. And so we see here in this part that it says, if indeed you continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel that you heard, which has been proclaimed in all creation under heaven, and of which I, Paul, became a minister. And so this if provides the condition of this reconciliation that we've learned of in the last session. And what Paul is saying is that there is a condition that you and I must fulfill, and that is to continue in the faith. Now, the way he decides or he describes how we should continue is stable, steadfast, and not shifting from the hope of the gospel that we have heard. You know, it's not those that begin the race that will remain reconciled to the Lord, because we know that there are people that will be that they will shipwreck their faith. They'll deny the faith. They'll walk away from the faith. But what we see here is that we must continue in the faith. And that faith is in this reconciliation in what God has done for us in His Son. And that was in order to present us holy and blameless before Him. And Christ alone is what does that for us. But we must remain in that state. And so we must continue in this in a stable way. You know, as Christians, we need to realize that we're not running a sprint. We're running a marathon. And so there must be stability and steadfastness, this perseverance that comes to our faith. And the only way that we are going to grow in faith and continue in it is that we have to go through some things. We will never know the stability and perseverance of faith if you never have to endure anything or go through times of, uncertainty. But we have to realize that the hope of the gospel is an eternal truth. It is a truth that we will find in life, that many things want to shift us from it. They want to move us. They want to cause us to give up in our steadfastness and say that, it's too difficult. It's really not the right foundation for life. But there is this hope of the gospel that will give us it's an eternal hope, and one that causes us to endure. And so we see that the hope of the gospel is something more than circumstances of life. It is something that has an eternal purpose for in life. And the things of life that cause the trials and cause the instability will only come to prove that this hope of the gospel that is in Christ is all the more true. It's going to prove that this faith is all the more sure. It's all the more able to give us strength to go on, because it's God's idea for us. And so we find that in continuing in the faith, in the end, this hope of the gospel that we've heard, it ultimately has its realization in an eternal reconciliation, that we are eternally reconciled to the Father. And that is the hope of the gospel.